Mike Woodson and the Indiana Hoosiers were pros in the transfer portal this offseason, and the world took notice.
You are Locked On Hoosiers, your daily podcast on the Indiana Hoosiers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in. It is the Locked On Hoosiers podcast. I'm your man, Jacob Goins. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Well, happy Monday. Hope you all had a fantastic weekend. If you are, in fact, watching this on the day that it came out, whether you're listening to it on audio or watching us on video, thank you so much for being an everydayer. Those of you that come back each and every day. There's no secret. There is no doubt. There's no denying that Indiana and Mike Woodson and this basketball program became and acted like professionals in the transfer portal this offseason, bringing in all sorts of talent. Not only did you lose some guys, you replaced them and got better at every position. But the world has started to take notice a little bit because as you go around different sites and different people and everybody talking in this talking offseason, right? Everybody's starting to make some lists. Everybody wants to start comparing and talking about, okay, now that the portal has slowed down quite a bit in terms of college basketball, who did it the best? Who brought in the best transfer portal class? And no matter where you look, I don't care what site, what person, anything, it doesn't matter. Every single one of them has Indiana up there in their top 5, top 3, top 2. I mean, everybody notices and has taken notice about what the Indiana Hoosiers did. And it's hard not to notice when you bring in the number 1/number 2 player, again, depending on where you look, in Oumar Ballo. You bring in guards like Kanaan Carlyle and Myles Rice and Luke Goode. When you bring those types of players in from the Power 6 level, yeah, people take notice. And I saw somebody say this the other day, and I hadn't really thought about it this way. The guys that you lost from the transfer portal didn't land at Power 6 schools and are not going to play at Power 6 schools. So not only did you sort of cut off the, I don't want to say the dead weight, but you cut off guys that were not helping you and you brought in guys that are. And you start looking at some of the schools that Indiana is being compared to in this transfer portal class. West Virginia is up there because, man, if you remember what's happened at West Virginia the last couple of years, I mean, that was a 9-23 record team last year. 9-23 at West Virginia after the disaster that has gone down with the whole Bob Huggins stuff. They've brought in all sorts of players. They've brought in number 9 prospect. They've brought in another couple of top 10, top 15 players. So West Virginia are on these lists. Baylor on these lists. How about St. John's with Rick Pitino is on this list. Indiana, of course. And then Arkansas and Michigan, 2 teams that I've already talked about on this program. Arkansas with, of course, now John Calipari, and Michigan with Dusty May. I really like that Michigan team. I think they're going to be good. I think they're going to be extremely talented this year as well. But it's good to see, again, that Indiana went and did what they had to do. Now, it is not the best position to be in to have to be one of the top portal players in the country in terms of your team, like top portal teams and rankings, because you would like to dominate the high school ranks and not have to go in and fill half your roster through the transfer portal. But it's a new era. And for Indiana, until we get back into the high school domination, which we're trying to do, there's no doubt about it. Indiana, Mike Woodson and the staff are trying to get back into the high school ranks and really become players there again. You have to go to the portal and make it up. You have to go get guys who can play right now, those instant impact players. And the Hoosiers have done that. They've absolutely done that. And Do I want to see this continue in terms of getting big-time players out of the portal? Absolutely. But again, you want it to be, okay, we need one or two guys here and there. You don't want to have to go after 4, 5, 6 players in the portal. But you really never know until the season's over, because you may think you stand good with your point guard or your center or whoever, and then boom, they enter their name in the transfer portal and they're gone. And you have guys that don't even talk to the team after the season's done and they leave with no explanation. Or they may just lie straight to your face. And that happens too. There's also the flip side where the team sits them down and says, look, man, we've appreciated your time here and your efforts didn't go unnoticed, but we recommend that you probably have to go somewhere else. Like, it goes both ways, man. It really, really does. But the fact that the Hoosiers are in the same conversation with coaches like Calipari and Dusty May and things like that, that's a good sign, at least for this coming year, because not only are we ranked top 5 in just about any portal rankings you'll find, our roster has gotten better. That's what I've been screaming to you the last couple of months. The roster has gotten so much better. It's unbelievable. And so what I want to see moving forward is, yeah, we're going to have to use the portal at times in the next however many years, but go and handpick them and select them for what you need. And you want that to be a little bit less, but you still want to be relevant in terms of, hey, this guy entered the portal. Indiana has reached out. They're serious players in trying to land this kid. That's what you want to keep. You want that to remain the same. You don't want to lose any of your credibility. And the way you do that is the guys that just came here, the guys that came through the portal. You already did it once with Kel'el Ware. You're sending him off to the NBA. We'll talk about that coming up in a little bit on today's show. But you continue to do that. You continue to show that if players want that second, third, fourth, final chance, they can do that in Bloomington, and it's going to work out for them. That they are going to benefit by using one of their years of eligibility here at Indiana, whether it be getting better as a player, winning games, going to the NBA, whatever the case may be. You have to show them that this is a high-level portal destination. And you were able to do that with Luke Goode, Myles Rice, Kanaan Carlyle, and Oumar Ballo. You now have to prove it to them on and off the floor this season. But Kel'el Ware is your perfect example of that. And if you can keep that up, if you're Mike Woodson in Indiana, not only did you become portal pros this offseason, you can be portal pros for however many years that this transfer portal stuff continues to be as crazy as it is. That is what the Hoosiers have to do to be successful moving forward. Well, coming up on Locked On Hoosiers, Xavier Johnson, former Indiana point guard that graduated, talked about Mike Woodson on his way out and what he liked about playing under Woody. I want to talk about that and how that can relate to sort of what we're talking about right now with guys coming in, new faces, and new names in the program. We'll talk about that coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. Look, when you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you cannot find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively looking for a new job, but might be open to the perfect role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. And LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats. And look, you may just not have time to hire or the resources to hire the people that you need. But 2.5 million small businesses use LinkedIn for hiring. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers. Appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day, your go-to spot for all things Indiana athletics. If you're on audio, be sure you follow us. be sure to turn on notifications so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Those of you that are watching on the YouTube video, thank you so much as well. Like the video, send it to everybody you know. Hit the subscribe button as well. It's free. It's easy. Takes just one tap of the thumb. And we are so close to 2,500 subscribers, which would be huge for this channel. So thank you so much for that. And all of my everydayers, you are the reason we are coming back and doing this each and every day. Xavier Johnson, former point guard for the Indiana Hoosiers, who played here for about 17 years, had some things to say about Mike Woodson on his way out. He was on a podcast and had some interesting quotes that I wanted to kind of dive into because it's a player that had an up and down career in terms of performance, in terms of injuries, right? And saw the good and the bad of Indiana basketball, but played under Mike Woodson for a handful of years. And it's interesting to kind of hear what he's talking about and giving his perspective on playing for Woody and what it meant to him and kind of what he liked and maybe some of what he disliked. And so some of the quotes that Xavier Johnson had to say, he said, quote, "I think every player feels really confident about him. He's a real guy who will have your back through the hard times and the good times. That's what people don't really understand, because when he means family, he really means it, and it's no joke. I would say he's always in your corner. I just think different players, he's really, really hard." He says, "I don't think a lot of dudes really understand that he's just trying to be hard. Being hard on you, holding you accountable, it actually grows you to be a better person and a better basketball player, because that's what he really wants. He wants the best for each and every player. He wants each and every player to get what they want and what they deserve." So we've heard this about Mike Woodson, that he can be sort of a hard, you know what, and he can be a little intense, and he can be kind of straightforward. And let's just be real, ladies and gentlemen. In today's society, in today's world, it's hard to do that against young people because they just don't take it well. Some do and some don't. It just depends on how you grew up and depends on what the situation was in your life. And some people can take it, right? Some people are cool with getting yelled at, getting screamed at, getting criticized, and telling them how much they suck and how much they got to get better, blah, blah, blah. But then they come out on the other side and, yeah, they become the better version of themselves, as Johnson was saying, as a person and as a basketball player. But there's a lot of people, and I think this is a growing trend in the kids that are coming up today, where you can't just scream in their face and make them run and hope that it works. Like, that's not the world that we live in anymore. And you have to find ways to do it differently. Now, Mike Woodson's a very old school guy. Wait, is he going to change his ways? Probably not. But if you go to Indiana and you understand what you're walking into and you understand the type of coach that Mike Woodson is, then it's not a big deal. Then it's not a problem. And if you have the right players, if you're Mike Woodson and the staff, if you have the right players that are going to react properly, respond properly, and get better because of it, then it's an effective coaching style. And that's what you have to see moving forward here in Indiana is, okay, Mike Woodson may be a tough guy to coach or a tough guy to play for sometimes. And man, he's going to get on you sometimes, but I got better because of it. And whether you're a high school player or a transfer portal guy, I got better because of Mike Woodson. That's what I want to continue to hear. And Xavier Johnson, I think, got better. And I think Mike Woodson made him better. Now, of course, he dealt with the injuries and things like that down the stretch, which obviously didn't help him. But Woody's just got that unique, I guess, old school style of coaching. And not everybody can play to that. Not everybody responds to that. But I like Xavier Johnson talking about how Woody's in your corner. He's got you. And he really does just want the best for you, your future, and, of course, for Indiana basketball. He goes on to talk about that last year, in last year's season, he says, "I think we understand the end of the season is where you're really supposed to play well. The really good teams, they play their best basketball towards the end of the year. And I think that we were getting the way, but through all the injuries and the losses that we had in January, that actually really hurt us." And I agree with that, right? Kind of talking about the end of last year and how we were playing our best basketball going into the Big Ten tournament. I mean, we were on, a 4 or 5 game win streak and gone in and won our first game in the Big Ten tournament. And it was going to take a magical miracle run for the season to stay alive. And look, I felt confident that something can happen. I mean, it's kind of unrealistic to think that we were going to win the whole Big Ten tournament, but I thought we could have made a little bit of a run, and it just didn't happen as much as we wanted it to. And X is right, talking about all those losses early in Big Ten play, right in the middle of the schedule too. It's just hard to overcome those, man. At the end of the year, it's hard to overcome early season losses, especially in the Big Ten when you start losing games that you weren't supposed to lose. Penn State, Nebraska, things like that, right? Those sorts of teams that you have to beat. And this team was upset about it, man. They were devastated that the season didn't go the way that they wanted it to. And, of course, the season the way that we wanted it to. And it's understandable, but injuries did play a huge part in this. And somebody like Xavier Johnson was a big part of that because you started Gabe Cupps as your point guard for most of the time. And, again, I like the kid, but that's not what we needed. We needed Xavier Johnson to be out on the floor and playing his best basketball of his career for last season to go the way that it needed to. And unfortunately, that just didn't happen. He says, final quote, how about this from Xavier Johnson? He says, quote, "He's a great coach. I don't understand why our fans, they just try to push out the coach when things aren't going as well. Because everything is not going to be always successful. You're going to have hardships. I just think he's done a great job putting good teams together and bringing back Indiana to the culture it really was." That's a bomb from Xavier Johnson. That's a tough quote to drop because you know what that tells me and what that should tell you, Indiana fans, is they hear you. They hear you and they see you. Everything you say, everything you do, all the trash talking and the bashing of players and coaches, they hear it and they see it. And they're not fans of it. Right? They're not fans of hearing all the negative things that fans have to say at times. And it sounds like Xavier Johnson really likes playing for Mike Woodson and understands that he's a good coach, hasn't been as successful as some would want, especially a year ago, but he feels that it's going in the right direction. And he also feels that he brought the culture back to Indiana basketball, which he's trying to do because Mike Woodson understands what it means to be an Indiana Hoosier, what it means to be inside the Indiana basketball program. And if Xavier Johnson is given that type of quote and is talking about why he doesn't understand the fans wanting to push him out and get him out and feels that he's a good coach and good for the program, maybe we should listen to him. Maybe we should take the word of Xavier Johnson, who played so many years here and gave everything he had for Indiana basketball. When guys like that start opening their mouth and start dropping quotes like that, it makes you think, and it makes you have to sit back and reconsider how you think about it and how you talk about it and how you look at things in terms of the Indiana basketball program. And I'll be honest with you, I'll leave it at that. Final segment coming up on Locked On Hoosiers. We'll talk about Kel'el Ware, who is testing out the NBA draft. He'll be competing in the combine. You had the lottery over the weekend. We'll talk all about that and what he can bring to an NBA squad. That's coming up next on Locked On Hoosiers. Today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, it's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and hasn't it been awesome? I mean, it's just been fantastic. NBA, NHL playoffs, there's nothing like it. And FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to make every playoff shot count. That's FanDuel.com/LockedOn right now. FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Welcome back into Locked On Hoosiers, final segment here on the show today. Appreciate you listening on audio, watching on YouTube. My everydayers, thank you so much for coming back. Want to talk about Kel'el Ware, who is going to be testing out the NBAs and the draft combine and has a good chance to make some noise with his performance there. And, you know, the combines have a I don't know. Some people are fans of them. Some people aren't. In terms of, are they beneficial? Are they not? Is it a waste of time? Is it really going to improve your draft stock? And that's for NBA, NHL, or NFL, anything. I mean, that's a conversation that a lot of people have. I don't mind it. But I feel that teams pretty much have a good idea of what they're going to do anyway. And unless you just go dummy in the combine, and NFL, they look at like 40 times and things like that. NBA, they're looking at your vertical, they're looking at things like that. But I mean, these teams know what they want to do, and they have a really good idea of who they want and where they're going to take them if they get the opportunity. But you still want to show up and have a really good performance. And there are 78 players at the 2024 Combine. It is going to be in Chicago this year, and it's coming up this week on Tuesday and Wednesday. You've got just all sorts of crazy things going on with you've got the medical exams, you've got tests of your skills and shooting and all this different things, right? And if you remember, 7-footer Kel'el Ware is going in the NBA draft, and he's being projected in most mock drafts as a first-round pick. Now, that could be a combination of places because there are so many different possibilities, right, of where he could go with those picks. And all things considered, I think he's got a good chance to go in that first round. And I really like Kel'el Ware, what he's going to bring to any NBA squad. He's got the size, he's got the footwork, he's got the finesse, and I think he's just got the basketball IQ. He's got the smarts to be an NBA player, because there were so many times a year ago when he was playing here in Bloomington that he had to adjust on the fly. He had to make it and pretty much do it on his own at times, where the Hoosiers would throw him the basketball and say, all right, good luck. And he'd be on an island by himself, and he would figure it out more times than not. He can rebound because he's big. His defense is solid because of his size. He's a good shot blocker. On-ball defending, I mean, not so much, but he's 7 foot tall. What do you expect? The thing I keep talking about with him is he needs some size. He needs a little bit of beef, some meat on them bones, because guys like Nikola Jokic and Joel Embiid, they are going to bump and bruise him all around if they get the chance. If they go up against him, they're just going to knock him around, move him out of the way, and then yam it. And that's just how it's going to go, because look at how big they are size-wise, and their arms and their legs, and heck, even in their gut, than they are compared to Kel'el Ware. I'm not saying he's got to go out and get fat by any means, but yeah, he's going to have to throw on some muscle because he's just so lean and mean. He needs a little bit of fat on there to kind of hang and to make sure he doesn't get bodied up and knocked around in the NBA. Because there's some big boys that play in there now. And the one thing that he started to do in college that I hope he continues to do, because you have to in today's NBA, he's got to knock down threes. They expect you to knock down a three if they give you the chance. And he began to do that a little bit on a pick and roll, right? Step out and shoot it. And he's an underrated shooter, I think. Kel'el Ware is from behind the arc. But look, that's what they expect you to do nowadays in the NBA. On that pick and roll, you're not hightailing it to the basket. You're stepping backwards to where they can throw it out to you, and you better knock it down. They expect you to go 1 for 3. That's what they want, I think. And that's kind of what I expect of most centers in the NBA. If you can go 1 for 3, same thing I talked about during the Indiana basketball season. If he could go 1 for 3, you're a threat, and they have to respect it. That opens up the floor, opens up the offense, defense is moving around, and you have so many more possibilities. That's what the NBA wants. They demand it now because that's just where it is. And so if Ware can continue to do that, or heck, even go 2 for 5, knock down a couple threes when your name is called, and good things are going to happen for you. In terms of teams that he could go to, I'll do a deeper dive into this as we get closer to the NBA draft and kind of where I think he could go and where he would do best and where they would be maybe a best fit for Kel'el Ware. We'll do a deeper dive into that later on, closer to the draft in a different episode. But look, some team's going to take a first-round pick on him and use a first-round pick on him, and they absolutely should. He's going to make your team better. There's no doubt about it. He's a great dude, super smart, super skilled, and the sky's the limit for him. I think they have a chance to really mold him into what they want, and there's so many good systems right now in the NBA that could use a young, raw, tall center that can shoot and just go get a bucket. And Kel'el Ware's that guy. And I hope somebody does take a chance on him. I think they will. As I said, most mock drafts, I mean, I've seen anywhere from 17 to 20, 26. I mean, I've seen pretty much everywhere, pretty much anywhere. And, 26 isn't, it's good. I mean, but I still think he's a first round pick. And even if he doesn't go in the first round, I think he's still first round worthy. So we'll see how that goes. NBA draft coming up on June 26th and 27th. So we still have about a month and a half before the actual draft happens. As I said, we'll do a deeper dive into that, what he brings, where he could go, what would be best for Kel'el Ware coming up in the NBA draft. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Hoosiers. Look, I appreciate you being here, making this your first listen each and every day. Again, video, be sure you like it, subscribe to the channel, send it out to everybody you know. Audio, do the same thing. Like it if you can, subscribe if you can, follow however you got to do it on your audio platform so you never miss a new episode of Locked On Hoosiers. We've got a lot more coming this week, and as I always say, you just never know what's going to happen. So until tomorrow, Hoosier fans, stay safe, and I'll talk to you later.